So today I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a little photo critique on some of the boat photos I've taken. And so what's the difference between a boat and a ship, you might ask? A boat can fit inside of a ship. It's that much bigger, all right? Not the other way around. All right, so let's check it out.
Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, click, click.
All right, so today's kind of the true test for me. I updated my iMovie to, let's see, Final Cut Pro X. And it was taking me, adding media to my videos, for a 15-minute video, it was taking anywhere from 5 to 8 or 9 hours to load this 15-minute video because everything kept crashing. So today is kind of my experimental video mode. It's like, let's see how this works this time, adding media with a different video editor. So, all right, let's go over some photos today. Today the theme is boats. And what do I like about boats? Boats tie us to many things, to recreation, to our livelihood, to exploration, and it's kind of a part of how we have survived through thousands of years connected to boats. And so I kind of like this first photo. It shows these girls just carefree playing on these boats in a way that would seem attractive to a kid. Hey, look at that. What if we jump off of that? That would be kind of fun, right? Now, when I grew up, everything was so strict growing up in the USA that if I were to do this and my parents caught me, my ass would be grass. They would kick my little butt because this wasn't their boat, this wasn't my boat, and they would not be too excited to see me jumping off of another fisherman's boat. That would have looked bad upon them. So you would never see this happening in the US unless the kids snuck out and did it and their parents weren't around. So there's quite a freedom here that is not found where I grew up, and I kind of like that. A kid can be a kid a little bit more without the fear of these super strict regulations and control factors. All right, so this boat is a boat on El Nido, and sometimes people take the fancy big tour boats, and sometimes people will take a smaller boat depending on what they can afford. Now, on this man's boat, he has, it looks to be some kind of a small kitchen, so he's doing a little bit of cleanup. On the other side of him, there is a barbecue grill. So oftentimes what they'll do is they'll take you on these tours, and they will cook for you and then clean up and then take another set of guests out to these different islands on these tours. So this is in the famous El Nido in Palawan, Philippines, and it's just a spectacular place to visit and to photograph. Now, unfortunately, when I went there, the entire time it was completely overcast and cloudy, so I never got to really experience the full beauty of El Nido, and I was quite disappointed because I had waited at least 2 to 3 years to make this my epic place to visit when I first entered into the Philippines, and I didn't go for quite a while. And when I got there, it was overcast. I'm like, oh no. All right, so one of the other really cool things that I am able to experience here in the Philippines is looking back in time, but yet living in the present. You get to see these people hand building these boats with hand tools. This is all the hand tools this guy has for building the majority of this boat. You've got a handsaw, a hammer, and a chisel. And he'll build the majority of this boat with just those few things. It's quite an amazing thing to consider that people still work in that simple of a fashion. And here's another shot of the boat. And you can literally see how this boat is constructed piece by piece. It's quite amazing. It's something I never thought I would experience in my lifetime. And there's just a little quick side shot of the boat. You can see it's just real simple. And you kind of wonder how these boats can go out into the ocean without sinking. I'm still kind of baffled because there's not much distance between the top and the bottom for a wave to crash in. It wouldn't take much for that to happen. So if you're going to do boats, try to find a fishing village, and you can make a very dynamic shot. Now, when I was at this village, it just happened to be early evening, and they were launching their boats. And it was kind of fun to be there to see this. And it happened so fast that you don't really get a lot of opportunity to get the shot in the direction you want, because before you know it, they're picking up the boat, they're going. They're not going to wait for you to take the shot. So I could have photoshopped a couple of these elements out and spent more time on it. But for me, this is just kind of a reference shot, a memory shot. It isn't so much a big shot that I plan to enter in awards. All right, so what I like about this shot is we have a fisherman, and this guy is like the Filipino Mick Jagger of the Philippines. And he's just got his own swag going on. He's got his headdress going on. He's got some different colorful things kind of hanging around his waist, and he just happens to look at this can, and he's just thinking about it so intently. What am I going to do with this can? Could I use this for something? What was this from? We don't know. But it's just kind of a fun shot, and I really like that shot. Alright, so the next one that we have, let's see, it is another fisherman. So when you're doing boats, if you can tie those photos in with people that use those boats, it'll give it more of a context and a stronger image. Now, this man is trying to set up his fishing gear to go fishing. And it's very serious for these guys. This is their entire livelihood. If they don't catch fish, they don't eat. They don't put food on the table for the family. And so they're focused on fishing. They're focused on getting everything ready. They don't care that I'm there. Everything else is not of interest to them other than getting that boat ready and getting out onto the water. It's quite an important deal for them. Okay. And so these people were kind of just hanging out, watching the fishermen, and it just made for a really dynamic shot. You've got this boat that just is getting ready to go out, and you got the family, the kids, curious, just kind of watching as they're getting ready to go out. So it just made for an interesting scene, the dynamics of this little pier area that they're at. That was kind of a fun shot. All right, so try to capture dynamics. Try to find a mood. Here's an interesting shot, because you've got these boats that are dry docked at an angle on this pier, and this young man, he's watching the people out to sea. Maybe he's done with school. Maybe his father is just going out there and he's just making sure he's okay. We don't know. But it offers us a chance to think about something when you take a photo like this with people that are lost in thought, that are thinking about something. And so always use that opportunity to connect people to scenes of interest, and make it so you look around the photo too. Don't just always put the person in the center. Put them off a little to the side, and try to balance the shot. And that seems to make it a lot more enjoyable. All right. Now this shot, there isn't much balance to this shot at all. It's chaos. It's just like, whoa. And your eyeball's going all around this shot because there isn't one focal point really in this. It's just all kind of a mishmash together. It's a very poor fishing community, and they're using every bit of available space that they have here to dry their clothes on the line, to docking their boats, to having a place just to sit. And that's just how life is. Years ago, when you lived on the ocean, you were considered poor, like a poor fisherman. Ocean property wasn't that available because all the fishermen lived on the coast. And it wasn't until quite a few years later that people decided they wanted to live on the ocean too, and then property values started to go up. But usually it wasn't as safe next to the ocean because you could have a wave come and wipe out your house. So a lot of these people, they live on the edge. They could have a tsunami or a big storm, and it just blow the smithereens out of these buildings, and then they lose everything and have to start over. And so it's a huge risk. And I think that's why there wasn't a lot of value to the ocean properties for a long time. All right, so let's just go over some dynamic ways to take your shot. Boats are a little harder to shoot to make them interesting. Now, shooting a partial part of a boat, not getting the whole thing in, but trying to capture a scene with part of that boat can make it kind of interesting. So I choose to just kind of crouch down low, get halfway into the boat, and then look forward with my camera. And that made for an interesting shot. And if you're going to do that, try to capture the golden hour of sunlight, either early morning, late evening. It's going to seem too harsh if you try to do it at the noon part of the day. And it will give more dynamic if the clouds aren't like blown out, if they have a little bit of coloring to them. Okay, so now what I try to do with some of these boat shots is turn them into kind of an art or an art print. And so this is one of my prints. And now if you look at this shot, I'm shooting through a boat curvature into the ocean at another man who's fishing out on his boat. So I'm tying two boats together with a scene of a man fishing out in the ocean. And it's an early morning sunrise, and so I get a lot of dynamic range from the clouds, and it just made for a really interesting shot. Now this other shot is even more impactful, and it's the same type of a thing. I'm using a boat as my backdrop, and I'm shooting a scene past it or around it, but yet everything is mostly in focus here, and you can see the little boat way out into the ocean, and it kind of ties the two things together. And you could call that a juxtaposition, positioning more than one thing together in the same frame of a shot. All right, so this shot, yeah, I altered it a little bit, but when I use an ND filter, sometimes you just get this really cool dynamic range in the early morning, and it will almost make the clouds look like they're painted. And I have another really, really dramatic shot that this shot came out of the camera just like this. And I don't know how it happened. It's just the perfect angle, but I didn't create this coloring. It is pretty much out of the camera like this. I do believe I had one ND filter on, but if you look at this photo, it looks like an old painting that the masters would paint like in the 1500s or the 1600s. It has this same kind of coloring, and so it's just really a special shot. If I tried to get this over again, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. It's kind of a once in a long time type of a shot. It's pretty cool for me. I'm really glad that I took this. So I made a print out of this shot. So your photos can have more value than just a photo. And that's what I try to do. I try to turn them into some kind of a print. And this is one of my favorite prints. And when this is printed out on a wall, it looks so dramatic. The colors just pop. They're so vivid. Now this one I did alter in the Photoshop a little bit. It was a sunrise morning, but all I did was play with the sliders. I didn't change anything else. The boat is an actual boat in the photo, and it just shows you what you can do when you use the sliders to your advantage. Make some of these photos your art. Don't settle on just being such a purist that it has to just be the pure photo. You'll have that always, right? But how much more dynamic can you also make it as something that somebody would want to put on their wall? And that to me is the exploration, the enjoyment I find out of it. It's like I get to win two times. I get to win when I take the shot, and I get to win again when I can alter it and turn it into something artful that I would want to put on my wall. All right, so let's do another art one. And so this one is really dynamic. I really played with the sliders to get the clouds to look really expressive. They were somewhat red because it was an early red morning sunrise, but I pushed the limits, and the waves kind of have a yellowing to it, and it just makes for an interesting photo and composition. All right, so I just have a couple more. We're almost done. Pretty quick day today. And if you can isolate a boat and make an image out of it. It reminds me of a movie called On Golden Pond. And it puts all the focus on being on the water with just one small craft or one small memory, or there's something that we all feel when we're tied to a boat. Maybe you have a simple boat memory. Maybe somebody you knew had a boat that was docked. Maybe you had a canoe. But when you see a simple boat, it just seems relaxing. It ties us to our memories, to our feelings, and to our emotions. So try to isolate a boat and get an image like this that can seem really pleasing and calming. All right, we got one more. And this one is a very dramatic colored edit. And I just love it because it really makes you think more about the shot and look into it and try to get something out of it. So however you make your photos, however you alter them, try to make it so people want to look at them more than just flipping through it. Let them stay a while. Let them conjure up a feeling and a thought. And have them share those thoughts so you know how your art is impacting them. I think that's really important. So I'm making these videos and it feels like I'm talking to myself because for the first 60 videos, I don't have much of an audience. I have like less than 60 subscribers. So I have no way to know how much I'm impacting my audience. It feels like I'm talking to myself. So I know how this makes me feel. And if you could leave me some comments and let me know how that makes you feel, that would let me know how I'm doing. All right, so I'd really appreciate that. All right, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight into my journey, my experience, and what I see and think about when I shoot my boat photos. And so a boat can be more than a boat if it's tied to other elements, if it's tied to a community, if it's tied to a village, if it's tied to the fishermen, or if it's tied to an experience or even a recreation. So try to find all those ways to bring boats and those elements into your photography, okay? All right. So today is the moment of truth, trying to take all this and edit it and crossing my fingers. I hope this turns out today, because if it doesn't, I'm going to try to pull out what little bit of hair that I have left. So I'm like, oh, I just hope this turns out okay, because I just upgraded to Final Cut Pro X, okay? All right. So hopefully those things were of a value to you, and if they were, gosh, leave me some comments, would you please? I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you could subscribe, that would really make my day. So thank you very much, and let's grow together.
Click, 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 click and a picket. Click, 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 click and a picket. Click, 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 click and a picket. Click, click, click.